the secrecy agreement that we sign is a secrecy agreement that's actually quite narrow. People don't realize how narrow the lifetime secrecy agreement is for CIA. But what it applies to is our own personal operational histories.
Oh, okay.
So we can't disclose the details of our personal operational histories without written approval of CIA. I am trying to get that. I've been trying since 2001 to get that. We have a book that we've been trying to publish. We have a book that's already approved, already purchased. Like everything is lined up and ready to go. We were right on the cusp of getting CIA approval to publish about a year and a half ago. And then the geopolitical nature of the world changed, and CIA came back and removed our ability to publish. So we're going through the process now of, do we have to ask them nicely, or do we have to go to court to get CIA to release a document that they already said once was unclassified?
Yeah. So I guess of what you can share, is there something that you're most proud of that you can talk about at all?
So in an effort to try to answer with something, right, there are absolutely missions I'm very proud of. The mission that I'm the most proud of was the last joint tandem operation I did with my wife. We had a chance to operate in Asia, building something that had never been built before in order to take on a localized threat that I'm not allowed to explain, but anybody that understands geopolitics can probably understand it. We had to build a new process for taking on a rising near-peer competitor out of an Asian location. And we were sent on this op, and it was clear we were intended to fail. Like, it was clear that it was an impossible task. We were told it was an impossible task by our supervisors. And we went out there thinking we were going to fail also, just being like, hey, this is hell of a sunset tour. We're going to fail here and then bounce to corporate America. But instead, it worked. Our plan worked. We ended up building resources and momentum at a grassroots level with other field officers who wanted to get on board. And we ended up creating a process that then permeated the entire CIA. And it's why I want to tell the story, right? It's why I want the book to come out. It's why I want CIA to get out of the way and let us tell people about the heroic efforts of other CIA officers. All my wife and I did was went out there and said yes to a stupid idea. It was a bunch of other people who made the shit happen, right? Yeah. So it's not even like one of those, it's not a CIA story about how the CIA is broken and fucked up. It's not a story about how we're the best thing since sliced bread. And those are what most CIA books are. Yeah. Instead, we're just trying to tell a story about real American heroes doing real American shit. Yeah. But unfortunately, we don't get to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I certainly get it. Were there ever instances in the field or as a manager of operations in the field where you were faced with a ethical dilemma and had to decide, and either it panned out how you wanted in the best case scenario or you really regret it? So
the question of ethics is a great question, because this is one of the areas that I didn't realize about CIA. And I didn't realize how important it was, like I said, that they're very good at recruiting. One of the reasons that CIA is so good at recruiting is specifically tied to this question of ethics and morality. So first, it's important to understand that you asked about ethics. Ethics has a definition. Ethics are defined by a group outside of you. So the Navy defines your ethics. If you're an attorney, some board of attorneys decides your ethics. If you're a doctor, some board of medicine determines your ethics. It's a rule, an ethical code assigned to you that you must meet. Morals are a code that you create for yourself. CIA has a code of ethics, but their code of ethics is specific to CIA. It has to do with not violating your promises to CIA, national security of the United States, that sort of thing. It's a very specific code, but it's not a hard code to meet, especially not if you're like a gung-ho CIA officer. Where I ran into problems in the field wasn't with ethics, it was with morals, because there were certain things that I thought I would never do. There are things I thought would never be acceptable. But then in the course of a CIA mission, when you know that you're taking out bad guys and protecting innocent people, it's shocking how often your morals are wrong. Like, your morals are not built, they're not conditioned in you as a kid for the situations that you see in real life, right?
What was the most consummate textbook example of that for you?
So I had a case where the thing that the person wanted was an illegal currency, if you will, an illegal material in the United States. So you can't even get your hands on it in the United States. If you touch it in the United States, FBI is breaking down your door, like the world's coming to an end.
Can you say what it is?
I can't say what it is, but classify it in that space of like all the rumors that you hear about, drugs and child pornography and, whatever else, weapons. That's the kind of shit that you and I know that if we touch it, we're going to jail forever.
I got you.
That was the only currency this person would accept to trade secrets against their state, right? So I'm sitting here with this case, and I'm like, well, I don't know how we're going to get our hands on that, right? Because that's, first of all, I feel sick talking to you. Like, you're fucked up. You're going to be a traitor against your country, but only in exchange for this substance.
Horrible shit,
right?
Yeah, I think we can figure out what that is, maybe.
And you have the fucking wasta, the balls to look me in the eye and be like, you know what I really need? I need this thing. What the fuck? Who do you think I am to even have this conversation with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I take it back to my supervisor, my field supervisor. And I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do with this case. He wants this. And my supervisor's like, well, get it for him. I'm like, what?
I don't even know where to get that.
Yeah. He's like, you put it in a cable, you send it to headquarters, you tell them that's what you need. And that's like,
wow.
First tour officer stuff. I send it back. I get a letter back with instructions on how and where it's going to be pouched or sent to me. I go and I find it. No shit, it's right there. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? Okay. So now I go back to the meeting and I'm like, I got your stuff. If you can give me the secrets and I can vet the secrets as true, I can give you the stuff. And that's how it worked. And that was like my first interaction. First of all, my first time ever touching such a disgusting thing, right? And then paying somebody off with it. And then that turned into the regular payment method, and the case just continued. And I didn't have a problem with it, right? And that's when I really learned, like, oh, all of my disgust was really contextual to living in American life in the United States. But now that I'm operating in fucking Africa for this case, I'm like, I'm in Africa serving this fucking warlord his shit. And I'm like, I don't really mind, because I've got to get my secrets from this guy before the other warlords blow his ass up.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is facilitating shit he's going to do anyways, but now we're getting some benefit for the American public out of it. Mm-hmm. And that was really the mantra. So what I learned is that CIA specifically hires us because we're morally flexible.
Yeah.
We think that there's something we wouldn't do, but when push comes to shove, we're going to fucking do it, and we're not going to lose sleep over it. And this is one of the things that I learned to really appreciate about myself, but even more so about our FBI counterparts. Because, like, I've seen dead bodies, and that shit fucks me up. I have seen people injured in disgusting ways, and that haunts my dreams. They're like, the shit that you did, the shit that FBI officers do, the shit that tactical police do, they can sleep at night. They're wired to be able to compartmentalize, distance themselves, and accept that they're seeing stuff in real life that's worse than what we see in horror movies. I can't do that. So I realize now more than ever, like, CIA's recruitment process brought me in to do dirty shit that I can sleep at night just fine.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
Other people do other dirty shit, and they can sleep at night just fine. But the people we serve...
It's pairing you up with the dirty shit that you're able to do and then asking you to execute it.
Right. And think about how many Americans could never do it.
Yeah. Most, I think.
Yeah.
In that specific instance, was the juice worth the squeeze? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
For me, it was because we had our eyes on the right prize.
Yeah.
There were other places where our eyes got distracted. The bad part about being part of CIA is that your intelligence requirements are dictated by policymakers. Your policymakers are elected into office by, unfortunately, ignorant partisan Americans. So then the shit rolls downhill. So, ignorance wins the election. Policymakers make ignorant decisions. Those ignorant decisions become stupid requirements that aren't worth human lives, but then that's what we have to execute on. So that happens all the time. But thankfully, in that first instance, I wasn't immediately disenfranchised with CIA because I was like, oh, you know what? Like, we're making a real difference. You can't make a difference in Africa. Let's be honest. Africa's a fucking shithole. It's where money and good ideas go to disappear. But we have to keep trying, because as soon as we stop trying, China's not going to stop trying. Russia's not going to stop trying. They own Africa. So if we're not fighting in that space, like, the bad guys are going to win.
Yeah. I assume that there were instances where the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it harder to sleep with that, knowing that
It was frustrating.
you were morally flexible and it didn't matter?
Yeah. So the nice thing is that by the time I started running into those cases where, why are we doing this? Like, it's not worth the squeeze. You learn to accept that, payment is payment. Currency is currency. Leverage is leverage. Doesn't matter if it's something on a DVD, something in a shrink wrapped bag, or just cash in hand. It doesn't matter what the leverage is. It's just leverage. So you learn to accept that. But the thing that really sucks is when you start to realize that the mission you signed up for was to keep Americans safe, to protect your mom, your dad, your cousins, your grandparents, your nephews, your children. That's what you're there to do. Stop terrorists, end nuclear proliferation, save democracy, that kind of shit, right? That's what you believe when you're in there. But then instead you end up chasing negotiation prices for wheat or rice or deforestation or some other bullshit that you're like, I don't understand how this is protecting my people back at home. And I definitely don't understand why you're putting us into danger's path to get this information.
Yeah.
What can't you find this? We're supposed to be an intelligence service of last resort.
Yeah.
You can't find some other intelligence tool that collects this for you? Or what you're really saying is your $15 million satellite isn't worth rerouting over the forests of fucking Russia. So you're going to send one of us because we're only worth $250,000. And if we're lost in the course of our duties, that sucks. But if you lose a $15 million satellite, you're really fucked.
Yeah. Wow, that's sobering. I assume then, or I guess I don't want to assume, I'll ask, that towards the end of the third tour for most agents, they start to realize that and understand that at a level where it becomes counterproductive to not bring them back and reinstitutionalize them.
Exactly. Yep, you're exactly right. That institutionalization process is critical, and that reinstitutionalization is critical. And I've seen it. I've seen it because I was able to be there through that management phase. I was brought back. I was retrained. I was fed the Kool-Aid about how, like, oh, you've cut your teeth on the world, and now what we need you is to lead the next generation of people and help make sure that they cut their teeth the right way. And you believe that shit, and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm the tip of the spear. I'm the tip of the spear. You've had those speeches. No matter where you are on the fucking spear, you're always the tip of the spear, right?
You're at the shit end of the stick, but by God, I mean, I can only imagine. Is there an entity or a guy that's actually actively managing that in terms of evaluating whether or not you've been reinstitutionalized enough to do something else or not? Like, is there a specific entity that's managing that?
So there's a certification board at the entry level, meaning when you first go through your field tradecraft course, what's known as the FARM, FTC, when you first go through that, it is not a skills evaluation. Everybody has the skills. Like, that's the beautiful thing about espionage. You can literally teach espionage to anybody you pluck off the street. How to keep a secret, how to tell a lie, how to break a lie if someone's telling you a lie, how to do a dead drop, how to send a signal. You can teach anybody espionage. What you can't teach is the sandbox effect, playing nice in the sandbox, making sure that you do what your supervisor says while also meeting the mission needs without taking too much from the other people who also need to meet their mission needs. Don't throw sand in each other's face kind of thing.
The survivor theory.
Survivor of the show, just like you said. That falls to a certification board. So essentially, for every 100 students that go through the farm, 80 students will graduate, 20 will be washed out because the board subjectively determines that they'll throw sand in each other's face, right? After that, all decisions about your individual performance are subjective, based off of essentially an informal panel of your direct supervisor and their supervisor above them. Because the agency, just like all bureaucracies, it's a tail riding organization. So you grandfather or you rabbi or you fleet up with the people above you. So everybody's trying to build their own little rabbi trail or their fiefdom of generals and lieutenants that they'll carry up the chain with them.
Yeah.
So that's who really decides whether or not you're fit for another field tour or whether you go into the wash mix of, now you're going to NSA as a liaison, and now you're going to the White House as a liaison, and now you're coming back to do a tour with the tech department.
Yeah. So in essence, it's almost a hamster wheel of people that have been made sure to be in the positions to make those decisions were institutionalized enough, and that torch keeps getting passed, and it's just a machine.
Correct. There's really three categories of people. You've got the first category, which is what you just talked about, right? Like, we're old guard. We're looking to make sure that new guard follow the old ways, and we're traditionalists, and we're going to make sure that the torch passes down. And that's a frustrating group. That's the group that's never going to change. That's why bureaucracy moves slow.
Is that the guy in the Jason Bourne scene at the end where he's in front of Congress like, Treadstone, yeah, we ended up washing that one, and he just dismisses it away? Is that guy?
You always find that guy in the movies. Yep.
Yeah.
That person who's like, oh, we just made the problem go away. Because really, to succeed, you're the guy that makes problems go away, right? But then there's also this parallel group that is the misfits, right? People who bucked the system, so the old guard kicked their ass out. But when you have enough people that the old guard rejects, they start to accept each other. And what happens is sometimes those people put up a really good fight, right? The torture cases with Guantanamo Bay and some of the other black sites, that's an example of the rebels beating the old guard, but in two different ways, right? So first, there was this idea of old school sticks and bricks espionage, and that's how you steal secrets. Well, then a rebel group was like, well, why don't we just beat the shit out of these people? Because that's what they do to us.
Why am I laughing at that? I don't know. Maybe I'm fucked up.
But the rebel group won. Yeah. So then torture became a thing, and like enhanced interrogation. I will still stand behind it being enhanced interrogation. Yeah. Enhanced interrogation became a thing that was accepted and was deemed to be acceptable and legal through the eyes of the clandestine courts. Well, then another rebel group came up, and that became the new standard. And then another rebel group came up and said, actually, that's not moral. That's not ethical as Americans. We shouldn't be able to use that in court. And that's how we have the shit that we have right now, where, we can't litigate somebody who we know was in charge of 9/11 because he was waterboarded. Yeah. So regardless, you see this rebel group, sometimes they come up and help us progress, and sometimes they come up and maybe they still help us progress, but they definitely are creating waves. Yeah. And then you have the third group of people who are just lost. And they're never going to leave because there's nothing for them to do on the outside, but they're also never going to promote up because there's nothing for them to do on the inside. Yeah. And my big fear is that as we stay in this political gridlock, either old guard people are going to go up and nothing's going to change, or old guard's going to get blocked by the executive and fucking crazy rebels are going to go up, and then it's totally unpredictable what they're going to do. Or it's going to be so hard to go up that both of them fucking quit and they go work for, NORAD, they go work for CVS, or they go work for some pharmaceutical company, or they go work for some social media company, some giant YouTube or whatever. And then you've got these pissants who never did anything with their career, and they accidentally promote up.
Yeah. It is frightening. It's kind of, there is no good answer to that.
Yeah.
Going back to the personal morality question, I would call it maybe even a personal constitution. Is there a thing that for you would be a red line where you just, no matter what the mission is, whatever the leverage, you would not engage in it?
Hurting an American citizen who has abided by all the laws above them. That is the person. That is where my red line would be, right? I've had to chase American citizens who rejected their American citizenship and then joined fucking rebel groups or ISIS or some other shit. Like, your passport might be blue, but if you're carrying a fucking ISIS flag, you're dead to me, right? And that's not the way it is in the eyes of the law. That's the way it is in my own personal ethical viewpoint, right? My moral viewpoint. So for me, that's the red line, is not hurting an innocent American who's done what they've been told to do. I have also been in situations where I've been told that I had to hound an American citizen who did what they were supposed to do, who became a clandestine informant for another organization, who provided intel, who broke the law because they were directed to break the law as part of an operational incentive or endeavor. And then we have a change in policy, or we have a change in leadership, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, that person needs to be like brought in for their crimes or whatever the fuck, right? I've been in situations like that where I'm like, I'm not the one that's going to do that. Like, if you want somebody to hunt his ass down, that's not me. Yeah. And my career paid the penalty for that, right? Yeah. But that's the nature of the beast. The nature of the beast is you still have to play nice in the sandbox. When people tell you to go do something, you have to either say, yes, sir, or you pay the penalty for not saying yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Is there something about the CIA that the public generally misunderstands?
I love this question because there's so many things that are awesome about CIA that don't ever make it into mainstream media or books because it's not sexy, right? And the big answer, the number one answer I have for this is that spies, CIA officers, are just everyday people. Like, that is honest to God what they are. They are not super soldiers. They're not, like, when you look at a team of Navy SEALs or Army Delta, like, you fucking guys look badass. When you look at a team of CIA officers, I swear to God, you feel like you're just looking at a book club.
Yeah. Fucking Marty McFly.
They just blend
George
in.
McFly.
Yeah, dude, they're nobodies. They're gray people. They have pot bellies sometimes. They have peg legs sometimes. They have thick glasses sometimes. They talk with lisps sometimes. Other times they're just totally normally forgettable people, right? But the movies make it to look like unless you're the shit of the shit, you don't have a chance at CIA. In reality, CIA has such a diverse operation set, such a variety of requirements for ages, genders, belief systems, bearded, no beard, good vision, bad vision, video game geek, technological neophyte. They have such a diversity of need that what they're really looking for is everyday people who have a high level of teachability. Because like I said, you can teach anybody how to spy. The question is, can you teach somebody fast enough to make them operational within a window of time that makes them relevant?
Yeah.
If it takes 2 years to teach somebody how to do a dead drop, fucking they're too slow.
Yeah.
If it takes 3 months, you can get them doing dead drops by the next quarter.
Yeah.
Like, let's train that person.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like it's kind of its own, like the mythic proportion of the Jason Bourne type of brand that exists in so much of our pop culture is kind of the CIA's own worst enemy, in that they probably end up passing over a lot of good talent because that good talent doesn't think they're Jason Bourne enough to even be in the CIA.
Yeah, exactly. And that is something they have been, you can see them actively working to try to overcome that.
Yeah.
If you look at, I mean, I don't like to speak well about this, but if you look at CIA advertisements, Dallas-Fort Worth has multiple full walls that are CIA advertisements. When you walk by them now, there's a very subtle influence campaign that's happening where you see that CIA is trying to diversify its hiring base by working away from the heroic looking character. Compare it to a MARSOC ad.
Yeah.
Dallas-Fort Worth also has a number of MARSOC ads.
Yeah.
So literally just going through one airport, C terminal, you see a MARSOC ad, which is some badass Latino or African American usually, like geared it up, kitted out, alone in a plane, or alone in a large field, like carrying big guns. And then you go look at the CIA ad, and what you see is like a lady with short cropped hair in rainbow socks, kind of like a butch lesbian, standing next to somebody who's Latino with glasses in a wheelchair, sitting behind a computer, talking about the future is ours.
Yeah.
Right. So you can really see that they're trying to get away from your typical Jason Bourne character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the question is, are they going too far? Are they making the Jason Bourne characters of the world feel like, well, that's not the same CIA.
Yeah.
I should go do something else.
Yeah.
Who knows? It depends on what ads in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. No shit. That's awesome. So you met your wife in the CIA. How did you guys meet?
We actually met in our orientation week.
Oh, okay.
So one of the first few things that you do is you go through, like all good bureaucratic processes, you go through a giant onboarding meeting that lasts several days where you talk about health insurance and you sign up for dental insurance and you make your TSP and all that other bullshit, right? And you sign your I'm never going to lie on my time and attendance sheet form, right?
Yeah.
It was during that period that I actually met my wife, but we didn't start dating for about 3-ish months after that. We had to go through our own individual orientation trainings and then our trainings in our specialties. And during those specialty trainings, sometimes we overlap with other skill sets and sometimes we break apart. So it took a few times of me seeing her and her seeing me before she finally was gracious enough to give me an opening to ask her out.
Yeah. and so there were times you guys actually worked together and times you didn't?
Correct. Yeah. So for the early part of our career, before we were married, There were times where we would be on different teams that had to collaborate or cooperate. For example, there was a time that she was on a covert influence team and I was on a counterproliferation team, and we had to work together to create covert influence propaganda that discouraged the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So there were different things like that we would cross paths on through our early career. And then as we got more serious and started dating, and then ultimately made it known to the CIA that we were intending to get married, which was one of our requirements by policy that we had to tell them, then CIA started looking at ways to bring us together in an office. That's kind of what they want to do, is put you in the same office, because then you have an incentive to stay at work all day long, right? But instead, in that review, what they found is that we had actual field utility, and that was what turned us into a tandem couple.
Is that something that the CIA, generally speaking, would endorse or discourage, or is it total case by case?
It is case by case, but I would say that the rule of thumb is they discourage it, because CIA knows that whenever you have, first of all, they don't want anything in an officer's life more important than CIA. So even if you come in and you have a wife and kids, your part of your interview process is assessing whether or not your loyalty is more towards yourself or more towards someone else. Because they know that if your loyalty is to yourself, then all they have to do is make you loyal to the organization. Yeah. Tie your identity to the organization, and you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But if what you're loyal to is your kid, you're never going to put CIA above your kid. So they're looking for that. So whenever they bring you in and you're loyal to yourself, but then you find the love of your life or you get married internally, they try to discourage it by highlighting all the challenges. And because you don't have to be married.
Yeah.
They're like, why don't you guys just have great careers where you're not married? Because then, your cover identities are safeguarded. There's space between the two of you. Like maybe, hopefully your marriage lasts forever. But if it doesn't, there's less paperwork in the future.
Yeah.
So they try to discourage it that way. Some people still move forward anyways. When people do move forward anyways, they begrudgingly go through the administrative backfill of fixing your cover so that you can actually be married together.
Yeah. In this case, because you took her name, it was less of a pain in their ass.
It was more exciting to them because she was not the field officer, I was, so there was a benefit to them, right? But we had plenty of people that we worked with, that we were friends with, who had also become married with another CIA officer. But then CIA is gambling because they also know that there's like a 60-ish, 65-ish% divorce rate at CIA. Yeah. So people who come in married get divorced. People who get married while they're there to non-CIA officers get divorced. And then, of course, CIA officers who marry each other get divorced.
Is it a similar rate for all three?
I don't know the breakdown for all three. Yeah. But what I do know is that CIA, we have a joke on the inside where CIA is the last person to help you get married and the first to help you get a divorce.
That's like your best friend.
Because they know when you're getting a divorce, it means a few things. You're losing half of your net wealth. You have to build that shit back up somehow.
Yeah.
You are literally you are ostracized from everybody on that side of the family. So you need a new best friend. And then you feel like you can't trust the family that you had. So now who can you trust? Us, right? So they love it because they're getting a lot of built-in loyalty.
Well, that duffel bag of cash is looking a lot more incentivizing when you just got divorced, I'm sure.
For sure.
How does the tandem couple thing work?
It works differently for every case. So essentially what a tandem couple is, a tandem operational couple is different than a tandem couple. A tandem couple means that the two officers are assigned together. That's what tandem means. So if we're going to a war zone, if we're going to a non-war zone, if we're going to a diplomatic post to go, augment American diplomats or whatever else, we're going together. So a lot of tandem couples actually get assigned to Langley, Virginia. You're both working in this office at this time doing two different things, right? So you're not working together operationally, but you are co-located as a tandem couple. A tandem operational couple is a couple that is married and the marriage itself plays into the operation. So now you're both operating in a certain mission set, simultaneously working together and being a married couple.
As your cover.
It's not even a cover. It's real.
Right.
But
as your story.
As your story. Yeah. What we would call a cover for action, which means your reason for taking the action that you're taking.
And you guys did that?
Correct.
Yeah. How was that? I mean, what can you share about it?
For us, it was great. Well, for me, it was great because my My wife is the polar opposite of me,
Really?
right? You've gotten to know me pretty well over this conversation. I am impulsive. I'm direct. I'm creative. I don't have a very strong moral compass. Like, I'm very pragmatic and practical. That's how I work. My wife is the opposite of all of that. She is very measured. She is very principled. She is very structured and disciplined. She is the opposite of impulsive. If anything, she does not like to change from the planned course. So CIA got the best of both of us because I pushed her off of the rails just enough to get her to really have to use her talent. And she kept me on the path enough to keep us from getting distracted. Yeah. So I loved it because my most successful years were all of my tandem operating years.
Can you share any of that stuff?
Not until that book can come out. But, ideas like, man, I have stupid ideas all the time. I'm like, hey, we need this person to do this thing. So what if we just throw a bag of rhino shit on their front patio and leave a little American flag along with it, right? Like, that'll work. And my wife's like, that's not going to work. You're going to get shot in the middle of the night because some poacher's going to think that you're trying to poach the rhino before they can get to it. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea.